Would I like it now in 2024 after reading 100 books after it? Probably not. As someone that downloaded Wattpad when they were 13 years old, nothing surprises me. The whole thing could have been the same, and this man just not pull a gun for no reason. I don't know, it felt like that was very out of pocket. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Paula here. It's definitely been an interesting month, I guess. July, I had a lot of health issues, a lot of doctor's appointments. I was barely able to read anything, and I thought, well, since I cannot bring you guys a vlog, maybe let's give you a little chat video, a little, chat between you and me. I think I mentioned in my June wrap up that I was in kind of a romance rut. Literally all that I could read was romance, and I read two of Ali Hazelwood's novels that I had not yet read. And I said that I am not a big Ali Hazelwood fan. Now, I feel like that's still somewhat true in the sense of she's not really a favorite author or anything. There's nothing about the way that she writes that makes her stand out for me personally. But that being said, I think she is one of my auto read authors in the sense that if I'm in a slump, if I don't feel like reading anything, sometimes a good Ali Hazelwood romance will take me out of it. So I thought, why not rate Ali Hazelwood's novels? Now, this is just all the novels. I have read the novellas, but honestly, they're too short and they're pretty much all on the same. So let's just focus on the novels here. I did a little tier ranking. I'm gonna be completely honest. I love watching the tier ranking books videos. I've never actually made a tier ranking myself. So this is my first time, but I think it's been fun. Okay, so down here we have all of the books that Ali Hazelwood has written and published, all in chronological order. I actually do not know if Checkmate was released before Bride or if Bride was before Checkmate, but I know that they were released kind of close together. So yeah, these are all of Ali Hazelwood's books, novels. I have read all of them, and then these are my tiers. I feel like they're not very creative. They're not, you know, nothing out of this world. But this is how I feel specifically about these books. So yeah, they make sense to me, and that's the important thing. Like this follows the hierarchy of like the higher one is the one that I like the most, and then the lowest one is the one that I like the least. So I'm gonna name the categories or the tiers, and then I will actually go into them once I put the book because I feel like it makes more sense with context. So at the bottom we have why, just why. Then a little bit up is There Wouldn't Be This If There Hadn't Been You. Yes, I do like that Taylor Swift song. I'm sorry. And then the next one is I Want My Man to See Me Like This. Then there's Medal for Giving Me a Great Time and I Love You Forever. So I don't think any of the Ali Hazelwood books like completely rocked my world, but there's definitely one I think I would reread just because I loved so much. So that's why it's, I Love You Forever. It feels fitting. Okay, so let's start with right at the bottom. Why, just why? This tier was made specifically for this book, and that one is Love on the Brain. I am so sorry if there's anyone here that liked Love on the Brain. I didn't hate it, but I feel like out of all of her books, this one is the one that's most similar to the Love Hypothesis. So once this book came out, Love on the Brain, right after the Love Hypothesis, I think a lot of people were just, disappointed that it looked so similar. And I do agree, but that was not the issue that I had with this book. My issue, I don't know, it was just a lot of things. The Galaxy Leggings, yeah, that was one. And then also just I don't know, the relationship didn't buy with it. The whole like Twitter thing, I didn't get it. It felt weird. And then like the conversations that they were having through Twitter felt like a little stalkerish because he knew the whole time who she was. Weird. And then also, and I feel like this is the most important part of my why, just why, the ending. And when I say the ending, I mean like that little like random action moment in the book. What? I read this book, so I have a comfy rom com that I can just, enjoy, giggle a little bit. The random villain in this with a gun, what? I don't know. I feel like that's like I was somewhat enjoying the book, but then that happened. I was just like, no, just no. Like, why? Why was this necessary? We could have made the whole plot, like the whole thing could have been the same, and this man just not pull a gun for no reason. I don't know. It felt like that was very out of pocket. So yeah, Love on the Brain is going to my why. Just what category. Now the next one, I feel like the next one is very easy to guess. There wouldn't be this if there hadn't been you. So that one is the love hypothesis. Now this goes for not only Ali Hazelwood but also for future romance novels that I read. When I read this book, I think that was in 2022. I had only read up to this point. This is my third year of university, I think, and I had not touched a book since I finished high school. I was just not. I don't know why. It just didn't happen. Especially since I was moving a lot from Spain to the US, and I was getting so much content in English. I was still not very comfortable reading in English, so I just stopped reading whatsoever. And then I started back reading in 2021, and I think most of what I was reading was historical fiction and classics. I think right before I picked the Love Hypothesis, I had just finished 100 Years of Solitude, so there was like a big difference right there. And honestly, I liked this book. I liked it so much because it was the first romance book I think I've ever read. Because even when I was in high school and I was like, consuming a lot of books, I think those were mostly focused on like fantasy. Yeah, I think I would say like fantasy. It was very heavy with, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, and then I did read some literary kind of, but not romance. So this, I could say this is probably my first ever adult romance that was just contemporary, and I just enjoyed it. It was so much fun. Would I like it now in 2024 after reading 100 books after it? Probably not. And that's okay. This was her debut author. This book found me exactly where it needed to find me. And yeah, I feel like most of my romance collection or my love for romance wouldn't be here if I hadn't had the Love Hypothesis. Up to this day, it's probably, yeah, it's the only Ali Hazelwood book that I own. And I've thought about unhauling it because, again, I don't think I'm gonna ever reread it. I don't think it would be my cup of tea now because I've read, in my opinion, better romance than the Love Hypothesis. But I think I'm just gonna keep it for nostalgia. I think this is not the last, even though I probably wouldn't enjoy it right now. But it is quite in the bottom just because I've read other historical books that I've enjoyed more. So the next category is I want my man to see me like this. And this comes from, I think in TikTok, you've probably seen I want a man that sees me. Not only that knows me, but like sees me. And I feel like that is now like a little trope going around, like, oh, this character, like the male main character sees her. And it just, for me, the way that I took that is you want a man that knows you, understands you, and doesn't need you to explain things to him for him to know. So, for example, he knows your coffee order, even though you've never actually told him, but he pays attention. Or the fact that you may love flowers, but you don't like roses. Things like that that you don't necessarily tell him, but like he sees it. He sees who you are, he sees what your likes are. And I feel like there's two books that fit this category, and they're books that one I enjoyed more than the other, but overall they're nice romances. The first one is Love Theoretically. I love this book so much. It was so much fun. This is more in the rom-com category, I would say. I thought it was so cute. And the reason I put it here is because I think the male main character in this one really sees her, like the female main character. The way that she tries to like match her personality to the person that she's with or that she is hanging out with just to make them like her. She's always faking some part of her so like the other person is more comfortable with her. But with the male main character, that just doesn't happen. He sees her for who she is, and that is something that, at least for the female main character, is like shocking. It's very confusing. And I feel like that is the peak of a man that sees you. That even though you're faking for everyone, he knows how to differentiate that. And then the next one that fits this year, I also read quite recently, like 2 months ago, is Not in Love. Now this one is more of an erotica, I would say, and Al Hazelwood also would say. So out of the two, I do recognize I loved Love Theoretically more, just because I'm a rom-com girly. There's nothing wrong with that. But Not in Love, I feel like this, at least the main character, he's whipped. Like, you cannot tell me this man is just not all in for this girl. He sees her in the sense of how much he understands her. How, literally, there's like one scene in the book where he's just like, I forget to focus on literally anything in the room if you're here. Like, I can only focus on you. If that's not a man that sees you, that sees her, it's just, yeah. Something did not work for me in this book, but I did definitely enjoy it more than The Love Hypothesis and Love in the Brain. And I do agree that this, like, the man and in this relationship was the reason I loved this book so much. And I also love the fact that the conflict or main issues in this book had nothing to do with their love slash relationship. It was more of like outside forces. Yeah, I really liked Eli. I think that was his name, and how you could tell I was very in love with Rue. I do have to say it was very insta lovey, but hey, sometimes you gotta expect that from romance books. Okay, now the next one is Medal for Giving Me a Great Time. This book is higher than the rest, and I don't know how that happened, but I feel like the reason is, and I talked about this in my June wrap up, I did not take this book seriously at all, and I think that's why it made for such a great time. And that was Bride. I'm gonna give it a medal. I don't know if it's gonna be a bronze, silver, or gold. Guess who's been watching the Olympics? But I'm gonna give it a medal because the fact that this book actually made me, you know, be happy I was reading and enjoy the book. I don't know. There was something about it. It was just so much fun. I did not take this seriously. Like you cannot take this book seriously. Okay, you just can't. If you want to enjoy it, this is not good literature. I do not think so. I've read romances and I've read fantasies, everything better than this. It was so much fun and it's so unserious. It was so unserious. Like the male female character, her name was Misery. I don't know. There's just something beautiful about that. So yeah, even though I do like the STEM aspect of Ali Hazelwood's books, I feel like that's what makes them Ali Hazelwood books. I also did enjoy reading a little bit more about like somewhat like politics, but not really heavy politics. Because to be fair, I have not read a high fantasy book in so long, so long. It's probably been years. So I'm just, I'm happy I'm getting, my toes wet a little bit with that because I got to read a little bit about like fantasy politics and it was all very like watered down, very simple, very enjoyable. So yeah, that was great. Also, I do have to say, as someone that downloaded Wattpad when they were 13 years old, nothing surprises me. Okay, there are some things. There are some things. But I don't know, I had never read about werewolf romances. So I think it's very obvious what I didn't know about that was gonna happen in this book. But honestly, I just kind of ignored it. Like my mind just, I didn't, I didn't pay any attention to it. I was just vibing with the book, and that was just not gonna read it for me. So I just took it out of my mind, and it never happened. And then you might see that there's only one book left in my tier ranking, and that is Check and Mate. And Check and Mate is gonna go to the I Love You Forever tier. And now I do think this might slightly different from Ali Hazelwood books, especially because supposedly it's a young adult. It did not feel like a young adult. I discussed it in one of my wrap ups. This did not feel like a young adult book, and I am okay with that. Like when I read it, I had no issues with it, but like in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, how is this YA? And like I feel like if it had been targeted as like closed door adult book, it would have made a little bit more sense. I am not sure. Also, like the ages of the characters, they make sense. They're like 18, so I guess it makes sense that it's a young adult in the sense of like the coming of age part. But some of the themes, on like honestly the spice part, it just felt weird that it was YA. So I did have a lot of issues with that, but the actual story and the characters, I just loved so much. I love chess. Am I good at it? No. That's fine. I love chess. I used to spend my breaks in school playing chess with my classmates. It has such a special part in my heart. My dad taught me how to play. And I loved the main character, Mallory. I felt so much like her. There's a lot of the themes in this book that I could relate to a lot. and I really liked it. It was great. Nolan was cool too. I liked their relationship, and also I like seeing a little bit, because let's be honest, it's not much, but it's a little bit of queer representation in Ali Hazelwood's book. Because so far, none of the couples have been queer that I know of or that I remember. I feel like they were both pretty much straight, and I don't also remember any like background character or like side character that was queer or were in a queer relationship. That might be me and misremembering. But I do felt like for the first time in Checkmate we had a main character, a female main character, Mallory, that was queer. I don't think it's ever specified whether she's bisexual or pansexual, but I did like that part of it. I felt like, you know, I saw myself a little bit there, but yeah, it was nice to see that tiny little bit of representation there. So yeah, I feel like this was a very short, fun, chatty video. I'm not gonna lie, I could jab about books for so long, but I tried to like make it a little bit short because no one wants to hear me talking for like 30 minutes straight, I think. I mean, if you do, just let me know. But I had a lot of fun doing this tier ranking. Maybe I should try others. I've been thinking I could probably do a tier ranking with my classics or the classics that I've read. That would be fun because it's also like a whole different side of my reading that I haven't been able to show much, especially because I hate reading classics in the summer. It's a whole thing. Yeah, my reading is very diverse. I will read a little bit of anything. So if there is anything that you want to see me read, please let me know. But yeah, this was my tier ranking for Ali Hazelwood books. I feel like most of it is quite popular, like follows what a lot of people think online. That Low on the Brain is kind of like a bit last, and then a little hypothesis, and then I think like the last three tiers are a bit different from this. I know that people have loved Not in Love, that it was like their favorite Ali Hazelwood book. It is not mine. I am so sorry. There is something that didn't click for me, but I think this is not that much of an unpopular opinion. If it is, let me know. And how would you actually rate this? If you have read them, of course, because I kind of want to know your opinions. I kind of want to discuss this. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you're still here, I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. That would definitely make my day. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.